Throughout 2020 and leading up to today, the genre of analog horror and found footage has expanded rapidly, even seeping into the film industry of the present, with horror movies like Skinamarink, this example being directly influenced by YouTube horror. Productions like The Mandela Catalog, Local 58, and Gemini Home Entertainment were slowly becoming monoliths at the forefront of the genre. These projects were unlike any other series on YouTube, gaining millions of followers across multiple platforms. On April 26 of 2020, Martin Wallace, a very prolific artist on YouTube and Twitter, released a Five Nights at Freddy's inspired analog horror project. This is the first episode of Wallace's hit horror series called The Walten Files. There's a lot to cover here, so sit back while I tell you the story of a happy company tainted by a broken man. Before we begin the analysis of this first video, if we look below to the description, we can see a message from a man named Anthony. Tape 1. This is a compilation of tapes created by the already extinct Bunny Smiles Company. I tried to get as much info as I could about what these tapes are. All I could find was that these tapes were handed to new employees back in 1974 to 1979. The rest of the tapes seem to be recorded by a new facility caretaker in the year 1982. Hopefully I can find more tapes soon. Anthony. It appears this man has been collecting tapes from a company called Bunny Smiles Incorporated. The name of the establishment is Bond's Burgers. It was established in 1974. The company responsible being Cyberfront Tech and Bunny Smiles Incorporated. We're briefly shown how the animatronics operate during the day, and afterwards, we're introduced to the founders of the establishment, Jack Walten and Felix Kranken, both of which are prolific names throughout the story, so be aware when they're mentioned. The tape malfunctions and visuals of a storage facility are revealed. The PSI storage facility is a company project to store all valuable items. Any props, animatronics, and arcade machines will be carefully moved, inspected, and secured inside a bunker. The tape once again malfunctions, and after a moment of silence, a gray rabbit with a purple bow tie begins to manifest. He speaks to us in a backwards language. However, reversing that audio gives us a message.
You finally start to remember. That's all day. They will be back for you soon. Sophie.
Once the tape is finished, another tape is played in succession. Sunlight Animation. Sunlight Animation appears to be another parent company for Bunny Smiles Incorporated. They're responsible for Little Bond's Neighborhood, a prominent cartoon in this reality. Bond is throwing a sleepover party. Those invited are Shaw, Boozoo, and Billy the Clown. For a brief moment, Jack Walton's face is seen where Bond's friends would be. After this slight malfunction, Bond begins setting up for his sleepover party. He glances at the movie. Jack's face is superimposed onto the box. The group then begins to watch their movie. Everyone in the group is asleep except for Bond. Bond is wide awake and begins hearing strange noises from inside his home. As he walks around to investigate, Bond finds Jack Walton's missing poster, June 11, 1974, the day Jack Walton went missing. Bond is then shown holding a lighter, and on the fourth attempt, we see a female worker in a uniform with Bond directly behind her. It's hard to make out, but the name on the worker's hat says Sophie. Moving forward, another tape is played. The tape cuts to a scene of someone driving in the forest. This man talking is a facility caretaker, recording his workday for Bunny Smiles Archive. Once inside, the caretaker finds many old photographs of Jack Walton and his family. Looking farther in, we see more photographs of Felix Kranken as well. After searching for a while, our character finds Bond in a withered state. Our technician's job is to test Bond's different features. The tape cuts to Bond sitting on a white void, staring deeply at us. His eyes begin to bleed. And our character is seemingly being chased down by Bond. He doesn't make it. It cuts to a CGI face of a man contorting and smiling. We then see a bloody mess of the same man as he speaks to us. I can't feel anything. He thought I was her. It cuts to black. We see a name tag. The details read, Brian Stells, Facility Caretaker. A disturbing image of Jack Walton appears before us, as classical music guides us to the end of the company introductory tape. What we can mainly understand from this tape is that Bunny Smells Incorporated was created by two men. However, one of them seems to be missing, Jack Walton. The company in question apparently has a murderous animatronic on their hands. The same robot killed the facility caretaker, Brian Stells. It's hard to make any assumptions or theories right now without much evidence, so let's keep looking for details in the next episode. The Walten Files 2, The Relocate Project. Once again, the description has another message from Anthony. This is another compilation of tapes from Bunny Smiles Incorporated. I was able to contact people via forums and threads that have some information of the company. These tapes revolve around some relocation project that was being executed in the 1970s. A BSI ex-employee mentioned that these tapes were really private and only a few people had a copy of them. Once the company vanished during the early 80s, all tapes regarding the project were banned and destroyed. These are super rare and I'm really lucky to have them. As for me, I'm doing fine. Just staying home and hoping COVID doesn't fuck me over. Take care, Anthony. Bunny Smiles Incorporated tape number 1, created on July 2nd, 1978. This is quite a long time after Jack Walton disappeared. Felix Kranken is the only co-founder left to stand at the moment. The tape explains that ever since Bond's Burger shut down, Felix Kranken had a backup plan in case anything went wrong. The plan was called the Relocate Project. The narrator begins to explain what happened after the closure of Bond's Burgers. Bond and the rest of the animatronics were relocated into the BSI storage facility that we saw in the last video. It's likely that the company was going bankrupt after the disappearance of its co-founder. Felix Kranken's Relocate Project aims to restore many of the animatronics in order to reopen a new Bond's Burgers in 1982. If all goes well, there'd be no problem. Felix would make just enough money to open for a new crowd. It's the perfect plan. Felix Kranken, the man with not only a giant brain, but also a giant heart. Oh, right, Jack. Jack's disappearance. It's likely that Felix had some sort of hand in it, whether intentionally or not. Moving onward, we're shown tape number 2, recorded on August 13th, 1978. This tape was created to show off the expressiveness of the animatronics' faces. The first test is the mouth, then the eyes, and finally their facial expressions. The next test is the facial recognition software within the animatronics. The music cuts out while Banny looks around the room. The tape becomes dim as a human face is imposed onto Banny's. The strange woman's face appears more and more, and on the last appearance, the face is eerily grinning.
The rabbit tries to find a way out of the cage, but it's unsuccessful. The rabbit keeps trying to find a way out, or at least catch the owner's attention. The mighty rabbit must get out. The mighty rabbit needs to 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 get out. The rabbit is starving. 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 Is starving. Is starving. Is starving. Is starving. Is starving.
A separate tape of rabbits running begins to play. The common theory about this scene is that the rabbits are being poached and killed, likely mirroring the death of this poor woman. After being shown Banny's mutilated face, a poster is faintly shown. If we turn the brightness up, it reads, "Missing, Susan Woodings. Last seen June 30th, 1974. This is the end of tape number 2. Tape number 3 was recorded on July 9th, 1978. We were first shown a picture of the showstoppers. Next is a picture of the endoskeleton of the animatronics. Next is a video game called Bunny Farm. And finally we see a picture of the characters from the cartoon of Bond's Neighborhood. This tape's focus is technical support presented by Shaw the Sheep. Shaw recommends that every facility caretaker have a uniform and also Bunny Smiles ID card. Moving onward, a cartoonish Bond character tells us what we should bring inside a backpack while working in the canine facility. First, a flashlight, then some mysterious key, and lastly, a camera for the Bunny Smiles archive. After the last item is put into the bag, Bond looks behind us in a terrifying way as Jack Walton appears from within the backpack. A voice beckons us to turn on our flashlight. It's Shaw the Sheep, introducing us to the canine facility. All is normal until Shaw enters the back rooms of the establishment. She begins speaking backwards. When reversed, this is what she says.
Rosemary would go to the restaurant every night hoping that his beloved husband would reappear after being missing for weeks, but no response until one day she heard a voice saying, "I know where she is, Rosie," coming from the backstage.
Once finished, she abruptly begins explaining the back room storage area to the viewer. This is the room where many of the animatronics are kept. After explaining the purpose of the room, Shaw retires herself to the back room stage once again. She pauses for a brief moment and begins to cry. She says, "Sophie, where am I?" She begins to glitch and convulse. An unknown woman appears on screen as a voice tells us the story of a woman who went backstage to find her husband.
Rose broken will fix you. You will beautiful. You will beautiful. You will beautiful.
When she woke up, she looked beautiful. But on the inside,
It felt like every single part of her body was bleeding out.
Yeah, I think you can guess where this is going. Horrifying imagery aside, we can see another missing poster. Rosemary Walton, missing. The year is hard to make out, but it reads July 19th, 1974. Only 6 days after Jack's disappearance. I believe it's safe to say that Rosemary possesses Shaw the Sheep after she was murdered by Bond. It's odd, Bond never uses language like killing her or murdering her. Rather, he says she is beautiful. It's possible that there's some sort of ritualistic nature to Bond's murders, possibly linked to some cult-like phenomenon. For now, let's keep searching for answers. We don't exactly have all the information now. Tape number 3. The opening footage is a disclaimer. It reads, the following footage was recorded on July 1978. In which 3 Bunny Smiles technicians volunteered to stay 3 days in the BSI storage facility for the purpose of reprogramming the animatronics in order to execute the relocate project. It begins by showing us the 3 employees mentioned, Hillary, Ashley, and Kevin. Hillary begins to explain her knowledge about the Bondsburgers establishment, along with its unfortunate closing. She explains that the place plays music from midnight to around 3 in the morning. Moving onward, Hillary gives us an explanation as to why the restaurant was closed. Many people reported hearing screams of adult women within the establishment, these women likely being Rosemary and Susan. After going inside, the technicians begin working on reprogramming the robots. Once they finish their work for the day, the 3 technicians sleep inside the facility. During this time, Ashley begins to question the use of the key that Cyberfront Tech gave them. Hillary and Kevin just shrug it off. They have no need for it. Ashley, however, doesn't give up. In the middle of the night, she takes the camera to record herself exploring whatever the key leads to. The first couple rooms Ashley shows are rooms full of spare endo pieces and scrapped animatronics. However, she finds one with an animatronic of a gray bunny, the same gray bunny from the last video. It appears to be on strings. Something odd to note here, Ashley mentions that the rooms are numbered and she finds over 40 different rooms in this facility. What could Bunny Smiles be hiding in over 40 different rooms? Ashley quickly moves on, mainly out of boredom. She also finds Billy the Clown and discovers he has a tape player in his stomach. After searching for a bit, Ashley finds a tape. She decides to play it using Billy.
I don't really know why this dude has a cassette player thing installed, but my guess is that it's used for birthday parties, like, you know, play a customized tape with something? I don't know, but we're about to find out.
Jack, Susan, Charles, Rosemary, Sophie.
Ashley now possesses Billy the Clown. And with that, we bring the Walten Files 2 to a close. However, there's still more to this video than meets the eye. You see, for a brief moment, we can see half of a YouTube link in the bottom left corner of the screen for a split second. This is the next video, so let's take a look at it, shall we? The title of this video is named Lucky You. The description contains a message. The story of Bond's Burgers goes back to 1958, where two college students had the same idea of animated performers. Their names were Jack Walten and Felix Kranken. It took them 16 years to actually execute the concept. By that time, Kranken and Walten had built their own families. Felix married a beautiful lady, and Walten was not only a great husband, but also a happy father of 3 beautiful children. From the last video, we know that Rosemary Walten is the wife of Jack. We can assume that Sophie is one of the 3 children of Jack Walten. The video itself is a backstory. First, opening day, June 28th of 1974. Then the first birthday, only 2 days after opening. As well, its last few birthdays before closure, July 10th through the 19th of 1974. The company thanks us for the smiles. We see the final closure on Halloween Day of 1974, along with the relocate project the following year. And then something interesting happens. It appears that Sophie was at one point aware of the horrors surrounding the Bunny Smiles Incorporated, and this haunted tape is telling her that if she takes her pills, she will be safe. This tape wasn't meant for us, rather it was meant for Sophie. We also get confirmation as to why these strange occurrences keep happening. They've been tainted by the spirits of those who died at the hands of Bunny Smiles. We also see a picture of a cartoon bear, significantly different from the character we saw of the bunny. This bear character is named Show Bear. We'll be seeing more of him later on. The final observation I'd like to note is the white background given to this endo. Many people speculate that these white backgrounds are the afterlife. Later on, they're more commonly referred to as Wonderland. Once again, more on that later. Welcome to the third and longest episode of the Walten Files, where we discover a rare beta build of a cyberfun game called Bunny Farm. Before we look at the video, let's take a look to the description. It's another message from Anthony. Hey, long time no see. The following footage is about a 1980s video game created by the company. Reason it took me so long to get this footage was because the game never really released to the public, and all footage available was from the beta version of the video game, during October of 1982. A few test Bunny Farm machines were distributed around Brighton, Michigan, the city where Bonds opened, on June 28, 1974. This footage was from the arcade machine sent from Enfront Hotel. The two girls playing the game seemed to have lived there. The particular thing about these machines was that all the footage from the game was recorded and then revised by a BSI technician to see if the game was ready to be published. This was one of them, and quite possibly the only footage remaining of the game. The footage itself was extremely corrupted, however, and it took me weeks to be able to piece everything together with the help of a friend, but I'm glad you've all been patient for this. Seems to be a huge one anyways. As for me, I'm going to spend spring break next weekend with my dad, Anthony. The following footage shows Jenny Lederson, age 26, and Sophie Walton, age 22, as they record their gameplay in their apartment. An interesting note about this opening sequence of Bunny Farm: the title soundtrack is Morse code for SOS. Is it possible that something or someone is trapped within the game? Sophie and Jenny create a new save and begin playing immediately. The story of the game is as follows. Bond is throwing an annual fruit festival with a huge party at the restaurant. He needs all the characters to put fruit in their respective baskets. However, they don't have any. Pete the Hippo overhears their problems and appears to help them with their troubles. He needs the gang to complete missions in order to get their fruits. Sophie quickly mentions how familiar this artwork seems to her. However, it's odd how she wouldn't immediately recognize her own father and mother's work. Is it possible that she's repressed memories from her childhood? Let's keep watching to find more details. Jenny shows Sophie the controls and mentions that the game is in a beta build. So many parts of the game are unfinished. She also mentions the name Bunny Smiles Incorporated, and once again, Sophie has no memory. Jenny and Sophie begin talking about the controversies surrounding BSI, calling to mind Brian Stells along with Ashley. Sophie and Jenny decide to begin playing the game to get their minds off the touchy subject. Sophie wants to play Billy the Clown's game. Billy's her favorite. While loading in, Sophie mentions that a lot of her memories have been lost or repressed, likely due to some sort of trauma. Jenny mentions that she needs to do some schoolwork, so she leaves Sophie to play the game by herself. As Sophie begins playing Billy's game, some very odd imagery appears, and in one of the images we can faintly see Showbear once again, although it's seemingly part of the gameplay. Sophie begins playing tic-tac-toe with the game, but the game is still glitching out. However, if you listen closely enough, you can hear Morse code in the background.
X. O.
It's writing help, once again, showing us that Sophie isn't alone. Billy brings in a present, and once Sophie opens it, a distorted picture of Jack Walton appears on screen. Once the game comes to an end, Billy's face is distorted, and the game begins to glitch excessively. Sophie decides to call it a night after what she saw. She tells herself that she'll look at it again with Jenny in her company. It's the next day, and Sophie tries her hardest to explain what she saw to Jenny. However, they both chalk it up to the game malfunctioning. Jenny once again leaves due to schoolwork. Sophie then tries to open her save file from before. It's corrupted. It could lead to more malfunctions with the game. Worriedly, she marches forth. Sophie discovers a poster section. However, a strange red figure can be seen next to it. She pays no mind to this oddity and begins playing Bandy's minigame. During the scene where the pigs escape, someone's face can be seen in the forest. Is someone watching us? Sophie needs to find keys in order to open doors, so the pigs can be put back in their respective cages. Sophie enters the first door. The music is no longer able to be heard. She needs to complete a jigsaw puzzle of the different characters. Once Sophie completes the puzzle, a horrifying picture of Bond appears, and the name Susan Woodings can be seen.
BSI Technical Support Audio Log Number 3, June 30th, 1974. Jeremy's birthday party finished an hour ago. I decided to stay and help the employees clean the place. This week has been strange, especially because of the opening. I find it weird that they opened the place even though Mr. Walten disappeared a few weeks ago. I hope he's doing alright. Rosemary came in today and asked if we'd seen him around. I'm pretty worried about it. Felix seems very concerned and worried too. Anyway, the birthday party, yes. Everything went according to plan. This was the first birthday party in the restaurant, and I feel it turned out pretty well. I noticed a few irregularities in the stage and in the audio animatronics. As the engineer and the person who basically built the animatronics to begin with, it was easier to notice these, especially in Bond. Something fell off. The limbs weren't moving properly. They looked stiff and odd, mainly in his right arm. It took a few more minutes to take him to the backstage, just to make sure everything's okay. I'm the only one left. Chris left some hours ago, and Felix didn't even show up. I'll leave and close the restaurant when I'm finished. I'm sure it's not going to take long.
Our player character has changed to look like Susan, as she works on Bond. She's been killed by him. Her soul is inside Banny. I'm still alive, but I can't move. I'm having trouble breathing, and my stomach feels weird. Sophie is clearly frightened by what she just saw. She even mentions that the story is familiar to her. She mentions the pills. The pills that provide her safety are also the pills that caused her to forget. This explains why she didn't understand what BSI was, despite her father being the founder. Sophie goes back to look at the poster once again, and as she does so, it changes. Linda Thomas. Do not touch. October 30th, 1964. Felix has been acting very weird lately. He's been drinking a lot more than usual. I'm very worried about him. August 23rd, 1965. I know I haven't talked here as much as I used to. This month has been so crazy. I moved in with Felix last week. He was very happy about it. Yesterday, Jack and Rose had their third child, a little girl. Her name is Molly Walten. Jack and Felix have been pitching a restaurant idea with a company that's interested. I think the name's Cyberfun Tech. December 26, 1970. They built a doll, a gray rabbit, for Ed and Molly. Molly named it Rocket. Felix drank a lot yesterday. This has been a problem for a while. It's getting worse, but he doesn't notice. He feels bad about it, but doesn't try to change. January 3rd, 1973. It's getting worse. He's so submerged with the project, he doesn't realize how much it damages him. May 2nd, 1974. Dear Felix, by the time you're reading this, I shouldn't be home. I know you're confused. I'm confused too. What you said to me last week hurt me a lot, but it opened my eyes. Hopefully this opens your eyes too. Our relationship isn't healthy. It never was. I'm leaving Brighton this morning. You're in the warehouse with Jack and the others as I'm writing this. By the time you're reading this, I'll already be in Hurricane. I know you're busy today, doing Jack a favor. Something related to a solo party, I can't remember. But please, go there when you have the time. As for me, I'll try to build my own life while I still can. You should do that too. I love you. Goodbye. These entries are likely Linda journaling her life as a way to cope or vent with her insecurities. Felix is an avid drinker and is hiding something from his wife, likely his relapsing addiction. In the December entry, we can see that Linda mentions a small gray rabbit named Rocket. Finally, because Linda is unhappy with Felix's addiction, she leaves him for a better life. Sophie is disturbed by this. However, she continues to look further into the game. She begins playing Buzu's game, which consists of setting up minigames for the party. The game has gone dim, and glitches are appearing more often. Sophie must play a memorization game in order to move on. The game continues to glitch out on Sophie, and once she matches the second pair of Buzus, a distorted face appears in the box. During these minigames, Sophie mentions that it feels as if someone is trying to speak to her directly. Moving forward, Sophie must now play Spot the Difference. In the second image, the shadows figure can be spotted. It's likely the same shadow figure from the second episode. In the third image, we can see the 2 red figures again from the poster section. In the fourth set of images, it's a normal picture of a man and a distorted, bloody picture of the same man. The game begins to glitch heavily as we are shown the unfortunate death of Charles Brooks.
This is kind of starting to make more sense to me. I mean, as much sense as something like this can make. These are all faces of people that I think I knew when I was younger. I knew these people, and
Sophie is beginning to remember more and more, little by little. Fueled by curiosity and fear, Sophie begins the final minigame, Shaw's Hide and Seek. In the first level, Showbear can be seen in the upper left corner, as well as the 2 red figures covered by an E and an M. However, once Sophie checks the forest, Showbear disappears, and the 2 red figures become more distinct. Once again, Sophie checks the wrong area. The red figures are seen with Rocket the rabbit doll. Finally, Sophie checks the barn. Now, it's her turn to seek. Sophie hides in the forest. The lights become dim as eerie music begins to play. Shaw has found her. The game begins to call Sophie by name as she recognizes the voice of Rosemary for the first time.
Am I still beautiful to you, Sophie?
I know you.
Found you.
She realizes that she's being shown her mother's death. Throughout this tape, most of, if not all, experiences could be explained reasonably. However, this is the first point in the episode where we now see that whatever is inside the game knows who is playing it. A well with eyes appear. It looks around for a moment before showing us the smiling white bear. Showbear has finally revealed himself to Sophie.
Come one and come all, welcome to my magic fountain of memories. Step right up and enter your most repressed experiences and get ready to be amazed by my magic.
Showbear's purpose within this video is to restore a specific memory to Sophie's mind. She asks the character, "Who are you?" It doesn't reply. She then draws 2 little stick figures, similar in stature. The game crashes and shows a date, May 2nd, 1974, along with the house. She mentions it's her old house. The phone is picked up by Felix, and it's revealed that Jack is the one calling. He wonders if Felix can do him a favor. Jack wonders if he can drop Ed and Molly off at their school event, and also pick them up and bring them home before 9. He states that he's busy filing paperwork, and Rosemary is at the dentist with Sophie. Felix then says, yeah, he'll do it, with Jack calling Felix a lifesaver, an eerie foreshadowing for what might happen next. As Sophie enters the car, the scene changes to an image of a bedroom. 2 red figures then appear in the scene, slowly fading from unknown silhouettes into Ed and Molly. They bring Rocket to their dance, but they happen to lose him. After they find Rocket, they realize it's time to go home. so they search for their Uncle Felix, only to find him relapsing. The kids are worried. They feel Felix is intoxicated, too intoxicated to drive. However, Felix insists and he tells the kids that he's good to drive. Felix tells the kids that they aren't very far from home. Molly asks if he had been drinking a lot. He tells Molly that he's just feeling a little sick, it's nothing to worry about. Felix then begins to speed up, as Ed tells Felix that he's going too fast. He apologizes. He isn't feeling well. Molly begins to comfort his drunken stupor, but the subtitles tell him it's all his fault. What's his fault, you may ask? Killed them. He buried them so he wouldn't face the consequences of his actions.
They didn't go home that night. He buried them here. He was too scared. But they found a way out eventually.
Their souls infused into Rocket, causing them to live again, their vengeful spirits refusing to let their story go unheard. Jack begins to ask Felix questions. Where are his children? But Felix refuses to answer him. Showbear has one more thing to show Sophie. With the withered forms of Banny, Buzu, and Shaw appear in front of the table with candles and a present. As the background fades to black, Bond's full animatronic body appears. Bond's bloody face appears on screen in black and white as a distorted version of Daisy Bell begins to play in the background. The scene cuts to Rocket sitting calmly in a chair in Wonderland. The two faces of Ed and Molly appear in the background as the audio glitches. However, once again we are shown the second half of a YouTube link. There's more to cover within this story. The name of this video is Guilty. It opens with a title card that reads Bunny Smiles Archive. This archive was briefly mentioned by Brian Stells in episode 1. The archive tape is the community greeting presented by Felix Krenken. The next message is an update on the state of the company a couple years later. Felix then gives a farewell message to all Bunny Smiles employees as they embark on their Christmas vacation. His last archive message, titled Guilty, contains a drunken confession of what he did to the Walten children.
Alright, it's... yeah. Messed up. It's been so long since I last used one of these. Last time I used this, I was driving. In the same conditions. Jack. Oh God, what am I gonna tell Jack? He would be devastated. That's why I buried him. Just the idea of Jack seeing what happened to him. Jack's been the best friend I've ever had. I'd never do that to him. That's when the accident occurred. I just panicked and I buried him in the forest. St. Juana's forest. The forest next to the road. The road in which the accident occurred. I can't remember where I buried him. So fucked. What am I gonna do now?
Felix is clearly remorseful about his unintentional murder. However, we are still riddled with questions. Who possessed Bond? Where is Jack Walton? And one of the most important questions, what happened to the employees of Bunny Smiles Incorporated? Luckily for us, the rabbit hole goes deeper.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the Walten Files. This episode may not be as long as Bunny Farm, but its production value has skyrocketed since that episode. Looking at the description, it's pretty long. But to sum it up, Anthony went to his friends to help him find more tapes, and they find a total of 23 when asking around town. This episode is part 1 of 3 in a compilation named the Cyberfun Tech Collection. Anthony then mentions he'll be going on vacation, so the next couple parts will be separated from the specific upload. Looking at the actual upload itself, it opens with a scene of balloons, oddly reminiscent of the movie It. Ed and Molly walk out of the darkness, holding Rocket in their backpack. They're trying to find their way back to Uncle Felix. We're rewatching the same scene from Bunny Farm. Once they walk through the door, they appear in a grassy farm area with a blinding white light in the distance. Bunny Smiles interjects the tape here with a never-before-seen commercial for Bond's Burgers. Once the commercial ends, we're greeted by a video menu. Whoever's watching can choose which to play. It's possible this is Anthony. He chooses Bond's Burgers promo. We open with a letter from Charles Brooke. Hi, just got hired officially as a computer supervisor for unnamed Bunny Smiles restaurant, though I've been coming up with a few names myself. I've known these guys for a while, they're family. I've done some work for them, along with Susan, for years now, even before Cyberfun Tech. Getting to meet the Waltons and the Crankins has been super fun. So excited to get to work. The future's bright. Charles Brooke. Next, we see a performance from Bond and the Showstoppers. However, once we see Bond's performance, the tape malfunctions, and we see a figure engulfed in a white light for a moment, as well as a contorted face shrouded in darkness. The tape transitions to a separate tape containing an endo labeled CBF72. A voice begins to speak. This odd narrator is named Cybertelly. He explains that his job is to explain the inner workings of Cyberfun Tech and its affiliates. The tape malfunctions once again to show the same figure from before. Cybertelly begins to describe the Showstoppers, the face of Bunny Smiles Inc. We're then shown concept art of the animatronics. Early forms of Banny and Bond were mainly created by Rosemary Walton. Her role as lead artist was vital to their creation. Even before Cyberfun Tech came along, Rosemary was somewhat of a successful artist, selling numerous art pieces before becoming a lead artist for BSI. Moving on, the TVA shows us an audio clip of Rosemary speaking about her designs for the Showstoppers. The tape once again glitches out before cutting to Susan Wooding speaking. She mentions that Bunny Smiles originally reached out to Cyberfun Tech, even committing to a full partnership. Susan Woodings appears to be the technical engineer for BSI, as well as the lead technician. The tape goes quiet as Susan begins to share more information about the technological developments. Eerie music creeps into the atmosphere as Susan's face covers the screen. A backwards letter can be seen. When flipped, we can see that it's a letter from a character named Norman Pooltrick. Mr. Crankin, this is Norman. I'm sending you this letter on behalf of our deal between Bunny Smiles and Cyberfun staff, and most importantly, the well-being of our Cyberfun staff. We've been getting a lot of complaints about a member of our staff going missing, who was highly associated with you and your team. Susan Woodings has been missing for a week now, and here in Cyberfun Tech we are working as hard as we can to try and manage to get in contact with her. Is there perhaps any detail you could hand us to help locate our missing employee? I'm going to be entirely honest with you, Mr. Crankin, and tell you I have a ton of questions and suspicions about whatever is going on with your company. Whatever it is, it's making both your company and mine look bad to public light. So, again, If there's anything that could help us find Susan, write us back immediately. Thank you. I'll see you Monday. Norman is the CEO of Cyberfun Tech. It appears he's somewhat aware of the horrors that are within Bunny Smiles. The previously seen footage of Shaw is briefly shown before cutting to a brand guide about the CT console. The CT console is fundamentally the brain of the animatronic. It stores audio files, information, and most importantly, the data. Next, we're shown the blueprints for the endoskeleton of the animatronics, once again presented by Susan Woodings. Moving forward, a green cartoony version of Bond is seen loading onto the screen, followed by Cyberfun Tech Interactive. This section is going to dig deeper into the Cyberfun Tech console. The footage abruptly cuts to a walk-around test. It appears Susan and Charles are on edge, concerned about their tests regarding their animatronics. The screen then appears to have a game-like system, with Susan and Charles having their own sprites. This is the CTC, recognizing the people within the establishment. It's pulsing similarly to a radar. Susan describes to Charles how the test should work. Banny should make her way to the table without bumping into them. At first, the test was working perfectly, but unfortunately, Banny promptly fails the test. The next test is facial tracking. Susan and Charles are speaking amongst themselves about Felix. They wonder where he might be. They also mention that Jack and Rosemary are oblivious to his condition. They quickly move on from the topic and begin testing facial recognition for Shaw. They briefly mention that they did a test with Sophie, confirming that Sophie was at one point an employee of Bunny Smiles. Shaw begins her facial tracking feature. A multitude of different facial features shuffle as Susan's face is imposed onto the screen. This same element was used in episode 1 as a way to recognize Brian. Shaw does the same thing to Charles, and after the test, they once again gossip about Felix's addiction, bringing an end to the facial tracking test. The next recording is on May 13, 1974. Susan and Charles are gossiping amongst themselves, and we hear about Felix's accident from Susan and Charles' perspective. It appears that whatever happened to Felix on his excursion is circling around. They mention that the story Felix had told everyone was clearly a lie to cover himself. The funeral for Molly and Ed was kept a secret from most people, as it was only available to direct family members. Felix had asked Susan to hide Rocket within the establishment, without Jack or Rose's knowledge, making her and Charles uncomfortable to be near it. They leave the room for a moment. However, something odd happens. The Rocket doll that Susan had hid inside the room begins to walk around on its own. It moves towards Buzu, as two blue rectangular figures can be seen on the tape. Buzu begins his facial tracking recognition software. As it were, no faces found appears on screen. The distorted visage of Ed and Molly appear. Their voices speak in reverse.
Ed and Rosemary, oh please, don't know.
The tape ends. Our tape then cuts to an upside down text reading the 1st, 6:30, 1974.
ESI technical support, audio log number 3, June 30th and...
This audio log sounds familiar. It's the beginning of the same audio log from Bunny Farm. However, as she speaks, the backstage is shown from the perspective of the console. After a couple moments of Susan faintly speaking, the strange white figure from earlier in the episode is seen in the corner. It moves towards Bond as the radar gets louder and louder. Susan is brutally mutilated by Bond. He then drags her body away before gleefully staring at her, as Bye Bye Blues by Memphis Slim begins to play. Our perspective then shifts to Jack Walton driving with a furious demeanor. It appears he's trying to find Felix, possibly to figure out what happened to his children. He goes to Felix's house and angrily knocks on his door, threatening Felix with death if he harmed Ed and Molly. The house is empty and dark, as Jack's many voicemails begin to play in succession. A static image appears above Felix within a grave-like hole, sitting next to Rocket. His bloody hands begin to cover his face with regret. A brief shot of the car crash with Ed and Molly is shown, Molly's mutilated body in the back seat. This grave was dug next to Ed and Molly, within St. Juana Forest. Felix climbs out of the hole, as Unicelier begins to play. He carries Rocket with him, along with Molly's backpack, as he makes his way towards a cliff, presumably to commit suicide. First, he throws the backpack off the cliff, then Ed's shoes, and lastly, himself. However, at the last moment he stops himself. An audio log from Felix begins to play. This is after his confession from the guilty episode. He states that he told Jack and Rose what happened to Ed and Molly. They obviously hate him for what he did, and he also mentions that he hates himself for his actions as well. Felix states that he took Rocket home with him, and he hasn't been able to discard it. It's a constant reminder of the atrocities he'd committed, yet he can't bring himself to get rid of the past. As the tape shows Rocket, both Ed and Molly can be seen peering from out the window. Felix then receives a knock at his door. A familiar phrase can be heard.
What? I'm so sorry.
The two children begin to haunt Felix for what he did. He begs and begs for them to go away, however, they refuse to let him be. July 1st, 1974. Our focus shifts to the backstage once more. Rocket is seen sitting on the floor. Bond is forcefully shoving Susan's body into the banding animatronic. Bond shushes quietly towards Rocket, seemingly aware of the presence within it. He continues his violent endeavors, while Rocket begins to open his eyes. Once he does so, we see the euphoric farmland from earlier in the episode. Quick, she's in here. Molly, I don't think we should do that. You saw what he did to her. He hurt her. He made her bleed. I don't want her to be hurt anymore. It's not fair. Molly, that's not our problem. Please, Ed. We have to find her. She doesn't deserve this. We have to. Fine, but quiet. The white light engulfs the screen, as Susan's voice can be seen begging for help. She slowly limps into frame. A strange man can be heard whistling, as she continues to beg for help.
I can hear you, Susan. I'm here.
Where are you? Please, where am I?
Don't you worry. You're in safe hands, Susan. Welcome to Wonderland. Your new home. Isn't it beautiful?
Am I
Dead? No. Not yet, at least. Your heart is
still beating, but your body is now functionless. Out there, you're slowly suffocating, but here, you're safe. The spirit doesn't pass on quite as fast as the body does. I would know.
Who are you?
Oh, where are my manners? Pleasure to meet you. My name is Bomb, and you're Susan.
This is the same character we've been seeing since the beginning of the episode. Hell, even the beginning of the series. He mentions that she likes to fix things. He does as well. And he wants to fix her. He gives her a present. When she looks inside, it's a Banny mask. It appears this Bond character went through a similar experience to Susan. A wandering spirit waiting for a vessel. And once he obtained it, he realized its potential and wanted to give others the same euphoric freedom. Once Susan possessed Banny, a shadow figure can be seen walking through the backstage area. The tape then cuts to Bond being outside the gates in Wonderland. He soon disappears. Ed and Molly reappear. They ponder together about how they might protect Susan now. They wonder if she'll be alright. Ed tells Molly there's no answer to that. They'll just have to wait and see. They wander through Wonderland for now, hand in hand, bringing the 4th episode of the Walten Files to an end. However, this isn't the end to the series. There's still one more episode we haven't covered. Throughout the episode, there were small details that slowly led up to an undiscovered YouTube link. So let's explore. The name of this secret video is La Cremosa, which is another way to say Our Lady of Sorrow, referring to Mary. However, in the context of this story, it's likely that it's referring to Susan. Looking to the description, it says, Report 90892, May 4th, 1974. Brighton City Police Department, Frank Davis. Felix Archer Crankin reportedly arrived at the station in the morning of May 3rd. He had a broken pair of glasses, dirty blue pants, and a yellow dress shirt covered in dirt and blood. When I got the call, he was already taken into custody. We sat him down for a few hours and he revealed valuable information about a case we were previously told about earlier that same day by Mr. Jack Walten. Walten's 2 youngest kids, Ed and Molly, had disappeared with Mr. Crankin the night prior. Felix's alibi stated that he was unconscious after the car crash for about 20 minutes. When he woke up, the kids had run off. This shows that Felix had lied about telling the truth to Jack and Rose. He never intended to tell them that he had unintentionally killed their children. Rather, he decided it was best to deceive them, both his best friend as well as the public. Moving on from this, the video itself begins with the perspective of the police investigating the disappearance of Ed and Molly Walten. However, it quickly cuts to Cybertelly once again. He begins telling us more about the Bunny Smile Cybertech console. His final message includes a disclaimer. If anyone should find faulty coding, they should immediately contact Charles Brooke. And once his name is mentioned, knocking can be faintly heard. A heavily distorted face can be seen. The knocking gets louder and louder. However, Cybertelly continues to explain the console's features despite this.
This technology is still a little faulty and in testing phases, as the console can only detect a limited amount of combinations, which means a person could easily...
Hello. I'm calling to inform my colleague, or well, my friend, Susan, hasn't shown up in a few days. I contacted her family, and they say they also haven't heard from her. We're all really worried over here that something may have happened to her. Apparently she was here on the 30th, but I'm not sure. I called in sick that day. Please, if anyone has any information, call me. Please.
A ghostly face fills the screen. For many moments, the tape shows the radar map from the last episode. However, it resembles Wonderland effortlessly. The outline of a face is imposed onto the map, and a very similarly cartoonish-looking Banny appears within it. The facial tracking feature activates, as it seems to recognize Susan within Banny. Susan's labored breathing can be heard within the animatronic. Banny begins to walk around. She walks towards an open door, darkness filling the room. She once again walks through the same door, over and over again. Once she reaches the end, there's a TV waiting for her. A shadowy figure can be seen peeking at her. She follows it, and as she does so, she hears a voice telling her, "You must go deep into the forest. Hurry, follow me." A door opens to Wonderland. She turns to the side, and a headless Bond is seen next to her. And as for the Walten Files, that is the final canon tape that has been uploaded to the channel. So what exactly has been happening within these episodes? First off, it's obvious that the man possessing Bond is not who he says he is. Many people in the fandom have theorized that this character is Jack Walton's ghost. However, I don't see it to be in line with the character, seeing as this strange man has seemingly been a ghost for some time. I believe that this Bond character is a man whose name has only appeared once on a website made specifically for the series by the creator. FindJackWalton.com was a website that was created as a way to provide much needed background information on many different characters and people, one of which was named Jason Pooltrick. Jason is the founder of Cyberfront Tech, the very company associated with everything that this series has dealt with. Unfortunately, Jason died in 1952, meaning if he were a spirit at the time that our mystery man possessed Bond, it's possible that Jason was the one who did it. Now that we have that out of the way, let's try to put together a timeline of events, starting with the creation of Cyberfront Tech as a company in 1943, with the CEO and founder being Jason Pooltrick. Cyberfront Tech was originally created for casinos, but it eventually branched off into other companies like Disney and many other theaters. Unfortunately, his commitment to his company would be cut short by his untimely death on March 19, 1952. Around 1958, two men would meet in college and begin a lifelong business friendship. The two friends were Felix Kranken and Jack Walton. Around a year later, they graduate from college, and Jack marries Rosemary Walton, and they both have a child named Sophie. On May 15th of 1962, Edward Walton was born, and about 3 years later, on August 23rd of 1965, Felix and Jack would begin pitching a restaurant idea to Norman Pooltrick, the son of Jason, who had taken over as CEO after his father's death. The same year, Sophie and Edward's sister was born. Her name is Molly. Around 2 years later, on April 15th of 1967, the two groups would come together to create Bunny Smiles Incorporated. The company would work in tandem with Cyberfront Tech. Sometime around Christmas of 1970, Rocket is given to Ed and Molly as a gift. Meanwhile, Felix's addiction to alcohol is taking control of his life. On January 21st of 1974, the first walk-around test was conducted by Charles Brooke and Susan Woodings, technicians who were sent from Cyberfront Tech, who also happened to be close friends of Jack and Rose. 2 months later, the first facial tracking feature test had begun, once again done by Charles and Susan. On May 2nd of 1974, Linda Kranken moves to Hurricane to take control of her life. She mentions that Felix's addiction had taken control of him as well as everything else in his life. Around the same time, Jack wonders if Felix could do him a favor. He tells Felix that he's working late one night, and Rose wouldn't be back until late as well. He asks Felix to take the kids to a middle school dance party and bring them back before 9. His addiction once again taking control of him. He gets drunk. Felix insists upon the kids that he should drive them home. Felix fails to control the vehicle. He crashes into a nearby forest. This would end up costing Ed and Molly their lives. In a drunken panic, he buries the two children in St. Juana's forest. 3 days later, Felix records a personal message confessing to everything he did. However, the story he told Jack was fairly different from the truth. Felix tells everyone, including the police, that he had crashed his car, lost consciousness for about 20 minutes, and when he woke up, the children were missing. On June 11th of 1974, Jack Walton was declared missing to the public, shocking the town of Brighton to its core. On June 28th of the same year, Bond's Burgers opened to the public, and not even 2 days later, Susan Woodings would be declared missing to the public. And soon after, she possesses Banny. On July 14th, 1974, Charles Brooke, the other Bunny Smiles technician, was also declared missing, and soon after he possessed Buzu. Around 6 days after his death, Bond's Burgers is closed for good. October 31st, 1974. Bond's Burgers is condemned, and only a month later the canine facility is built in St. Juana's Forest, the same forest Ed and Molly were buried in. On January 23rd of 1975, Felix began the relocation project, sending the animatronics to the canine facility and having them reprogrammed for a future establishment. One of the technicians that were supposed to reprogram the animatronics was Ashley P., who unfortunately died at the hands of Bond on July 14th of 1978, soon after the relocation project was fully scrapped. Around October of 1982, Sophie Walton and her girlfriend Jenny begin to play Bunny Farm, a scrapped Bunny Smiles arcade game. This is where we find out about Jobert's existence. We also find out that Sophie had drug-induced amnesia due to the pills she had been taking since her early adulthood. Around a year later, Bunny Smiles Incorporated shut down for good, bringing the curse of this haunted company to its final conclusion. I just want to thank everyone who worked on the video. Thank you to my girlfriend for making the cute little emotes in my Discord. By the way, if you haven't already, please join the Discord. You can vote for stuff there. You can, they have a lot of channels if you ever are interested. You know, all kinds of stuff. Also, thank you to Spoonstub for helping me with the script. And yeah, I just hope everything goes well. I just recently moved into my college dorm, and it's been a hell of a move. Thank you all. Especially thank you for 400 subscribers. Thank you so much. All right, I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for watching.